Welcome to the Better Than Yesterday Everyday Podcast, where we cover anything related to behavior change that will increase your long-term wellness and happiness. And now, here are your hosts, personal trainer and RNs, Matt and Jenna Lane.
What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Better Than Yesterday Everyday Podcast. I hope you're doing well. My name's Matt.
My name's Jenna.
And today we have a guest on that I was a little blindsided that I was actually able to weasel him on here. This is Dr. Peterson, our veterinarian that has saved us in many, many crises. And we're super, super, super happy to have you on. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely, man. It's actually an honor. I've been listening to the podcast since the very beginning, and you and I kind of had a little messaging going back and forth. And when you asked, I'm really happy to be here. So thank you, both of you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Guys, before we dive into the podcast, feel free to leave a review if you like or hate this podcast. We just want an honest review on iTunes. It helps this podcast grow. Today, we are still talking about implementing behavior change for your long-term wellness and happiness. I actually had somebody ask me, what are you going to do with your veterinarian on? Like, how does that really...
that guy know?
Yeah, like, how does that pertain? But, you know, honestly, what it really is that we followed him from another veterinarian clinic just because of who he is. And of course, he's an incredible doctor. But I mean, just because of who he is, like what he puts off, how he is, and like you can just so tell that he gives a crap about what he's doing. There's a real reason behind it. And that's what I kind of wanted to dive into. What is behind that passion? Why is it that it's that makes you happy? But before we dive all the way into it, at the top of every show, we hit you with our gratitude point.
Gratitude point.
This gratitude point it can be small, it can be large. It's something to sort of give you perspective in when times are good, when times are bad, and knowing that there's always something to be grateful for. Should I go first, or should you go first?
I'll go first.
All right, you go first.
And I'm going to cheat and say I'm grateful for you. Okay, you've acted as our therapist.
That's my part-time job.
And our crises. I mean, there's been several times where, you've operated on Lily. How many times? I mean, good Lord. But, we went through a surgery with Roman recently where, we really went back and forth about having a big surgery. He's older, us being medical professionals, but not in the animal world. We had our own twist on what we thought. And I know we came back to you, 4 or 5 times before we were finally like, okay, well, we'll listen to you since you're the expert.
Since you've done this for a little while.
And I'm really grateful for that because Roman certainly has much better quality of life now that he's had his leg fixed. I mean, we can walk almost a mile before he starts kind of petering out there. But, he couldn't walk to the backyard before without really limping. So
he was in rough shape.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's added a lot of life to his years, however long that might be. So thank you.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Mine's sort of along the same lines, medical technology. We were actually talking a little bit before we hopped on here, and what can be done, because all Jenna and I know is healthcare for humans, and to know what technology is out there for animals is incredible. But I think that medical technology, I mean, we live in an incredible time, and I'm very, very grateful for that, that ability to just have that, like to just dial it up and be like, yeah, all right, I got to go to the hospital or I got to go to the vet. Like it's a possibility, and it's not that way everywhere. So,
well, and along those same lines, I know that we talked right before his procedure, and I told you, said, hey, look, I'm going to get some continuing education on this new ACL procedure. I think it's going to be a real good fit for Roman. That goes along the lines of technology, man. It's I love it. Yeah, especially when you can apply it to a medical field. So.
Yeah. And by all means, if you have one, awesome. If not, no biggie.
I do. I've been thinking about this.
Okay, cool.
So mine is kind of broad, but I am really thankful for opportunity. All throughout my life, and I think everyone's life, you are presented with opportunities. Some you take, some you don't. And I think sometimes I'll look back on my life and say, wow, I wish maybe I would have done that or taken this opportunity. But the fact that it was there for me and had the ability to take advantage of some of those opportunities, I fully feel like that's where I am today, because again, I had those opportunities and I took them and made the best of them. That's the big thing.
I like that.
I love it. I'm going to try not to talk too much. I really want you to dive in here. You know how I do that. But to start this off, should we start off by talking about how we found him, or should we start with how he found veterinarian? I mean, you lead it.
Yeah, I think that's, kind of give us a backstory of why you chose the career you chose, like how fitness has played into that. Kind of give us your background story.
Sure. Yeah. Going back to when I was a young kid, I always liked working with my hands. And I always had kind of a special interest in science. So as I started going through college, I started thinking about, well, where could I apply my love of science and the love I have of working with my hands? And of course, always growing up with animals, I just felt like that was a natural fit. It was not an easy road. I always tell people, look, I was never the smartest person in my class, but I did work hard. And that's what I've always had the ability to do, is just kind of put my head down and keep going forward. In fact, if we got a little bit of time, I just got a quick little backstory on that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I graduated from Florida State with a degree in biology, and I was working for a small animal veterinarian in Tallahassee. And I was dating this girl at the time, and we were having lunch outside of the hospital, and I was just complaining about, I'm not getting any closer to my dream. I'm not going to get into vet school. Man, what am I doing? And she said, well, why don't you do something about it? I said, yeah, why don't I do something about it?
Wow.
Yeah, so I went in right then, and I called down to Gainesville, and I said, I had a buddy that was in med school down there, and I said, are there any apartments in your apartment complex available? He said, yeah, I'm moving out of my 1-bedroom. I'm getting a 2-bedroom. So bottom line is, within 2 weeks, I was down in Gainesville working at the vet school in the ICU as a nurse, working at Chili's, and also working at a horse farm too. I had 3 jobs at the time.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Did not get in my first year. So the second year rolls around. I made an appointment with the dean of students every 2 weeks and said, what do I got to do? And he would give me a list. I would go back the next 2 weeks, did it. How about now? Now what do I do? And I just kept doing that. And I always make the joke that they let me in because he was tired of me coming to his office.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Works. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of how I got there.
That's fantastic. That's an awesome opening to your story. Dang. So, and that just goes to show you like the ignorance that I think, well, I know that I have, but like I didn't even know that there was a nurse of, all we know is human medical world. I mean, I did not even know that there was a nurse in the veterinarian world.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of, I guess, semantics with that. There's a big push by the veterinary community to people that have education to be a veterinary medical assistant, if you want to call them that.
Okay.
If they have the education, then we want to start calling them veterinary nurses rather than a technician, which is what they have traditionally been called.
Okay.
So I'm very, I guess, careful about that because, all the nurses that I work with at our hospital, I have the utmost respect for them. And so to me, that term it's a sign of respect.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when someone calls them a technician,
there's a certain hierarchy
right.
there.
I think
absolutely.
You take some of the medical background out of it when you say technician versus nurse.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
So, So
Good point.
yeah. So they're trying to actually get that changed from a legal standpoint.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Before we go even farther, I've told a few people that I'm going to have you on here. And my next question, how did you become so damn sexy?
You'd have to ask my mom and dad about that.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I've told Jenna for years that I'm really man crushing on you. I have never been able to look at another guy. Like, I can tell if he's got a good physique, I get that, but I've never been able to look at another guy and be like, that's a good looking guy. But the first time I saw you, I think Jenna and I probably had the same exact thought. We're like, who is this guy?
Well, yeah, that's funny.
Everybody I talk to, they're like, "Oh, you're having who on the podcast? I'm gonna listen and look at that one."
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. Well, I appreciate that. Thank
Yes,
you.
absolutely.
Yeah, I know we've joked that it's probably all females that bring their pets to you. It's not a whole lot of dudes.
They probably are a little bit overrepresented. Yeah. That's how I met my wife, actually.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. She was a client, and she works with rescue. She did back then, and she still does today.
Okay.
Yeah, and she came in. She was actually married at the time, and I was engaged to other people.
Dad, come. All right.
But that didn't work out. So a couple years later, we both found ourselves single, and yeah, rest is history.
Good for y'all.
Yep.
Good for y'all.
That's cool.
Lucky girl.
You're such a mess.
Hey, that's the truth. That's the truth. So, and where are you actually located? Because you were at a clinic, and then
Yep.
you started your own clinic. When did you start your own clinic?
So we started the new clinic June 21st of 2016. So we've been there a little over 3 years.
Been that long?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a pre-existing practice where the current owner was looking to retire.
Okay.
So it just worked out. The timing was great. So we actually moved into, can I say the name? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's Cordova Animal Medical Center. And we're off Langley. It's right there next to the butcher shop behind Walgreens at that like Bermuda Triangle of roads.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. We'll put the, if you're watching or listening, we'll put the address in there. Any social media stuff, the phone numbers, everything, we'll put it in there.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So what was the push to go out on your own?
Yeah.
Wanting to do things the way I thought that they should be done.
Okay.
I had two other partners at the previous practice, and somebody told me a joke, and they said, in heaven, there's always going to be two empty seats, and that's going to be for the two business partners that actually worked out. It's just really hard for everybody to be, focused on the same things.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to do things a little bit differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, look, I'm gonna do it myself.
Okay.
Give it a shot anyway.
Okay. So take me through what's like a normal day, or no, what's a normal week for you in terms of like how busy you are and whatnot?
Sure. So
Because you're growing pretty friggin' fast.
we are, yeah, which is great, which is a real blessing. It makes me feel good because I feel like if you do a good job, you practice quality medicine, and you're honest, things should work out.
The business will come to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really has. I've had the ability within the last year to hire a full-time associate. So it's the two of us there now.
Okay.
And I would say the week starts off pretty hectic. Mondays are pretty rough.
Okay.
As you can imagine, things happen on the weekends, especially
Okay.
on Sundays.
Sure.
So once we get through kind of the Monday emergency rush, settle into some surgeries. I do have Wednesdays off, so
And that's why he's here recording the
there you go.
podcast.
Exactly. My guilty pleasure is movies. I love going to see movies.
Awesome.
So on Wednesdays, I go by myself. People think that's weird, but
No,
great.
actually, we have a good friend, Craig Kahn. He does that all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. It's very cathartic. I turn my cell phone off, just sit in the dark for 2 hours and
Wow.
watch a good movie.
That's
So,
rad.
Yeah, then we wrap the week up, and then Saturdays are pretty crazy, and then a little downtime on Sunday.
Okay. Okay.
About it.
So pretty busy to say
Yeah.
the least.
Oh yeah.
But you've been into some form of fitness. You've always been like you're friggin' huge. How tall are you?
6'3".
Okay. I mean, tying up with you would be a nightmare. I mean, you're a very big guy, and you've been into fitness-ish, physical. Like, what does that history look like?
So, and I was kind of messaging you a little bit about that last night.
Yeah.
So growing up, I was always real skinny, very tall and super skinny. I think at one time, maybe my sophomore year in high school, 6'3", like 160, 165.
Okay.
And so I hated the way that I looked. I did. Just always thought I was real skinny and just very depressing for me.
Purely just the looks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't like the way that I looked. I was always, as far as athletic, I was always athletic. I played a lot of sports in high school. And I was always fairly strong, but I would, I look around at other people and I'm like, wow, I'm so much stronger than that guy, but he's so much bigger than I am, so.
Right.
I think that's what kind of started it initially. Now I've changed a lot since then. Probably within the last 5 years, my goals have been a little bit different. when you run your own business or in this medical field, as you know, it's stressful.
Yeah.
Super stressful.
Yeah.
So I've had some hypertension problems where I've had to get on some medication. But just recently, I've been able to get off all of my,
Good for you.
all
That's
of my
awesome.
ACE inhibitors just from merely doing more cardio and refocusing my exercise, really.
Okay.
So
I'm going to dive in even further. So what does your actual exercising look like?
So I would say if you asked me that, 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, I would do 5 minutes maybe of cardio.
Right.
And then it was all like lifting heavy.
Okay.
Deadlifts, tons of bench, just anything that was heavy. That's what I wanted to do. Then through several orthopedic surgeries,
Okay.
I've had 3 rotator cuff repairs, 2 bicep tendon, a torn pec major, and shattered my tibia training for a Tough Mudder run. So
Okay.
had some issues there.
Okay.
So now when I go in, I'm at least 30 minutes of cardio. I try to split that up, do some sprint training on the treadmill, and then do some elliptical.
Okay.
And then, I hit the weights too, but just not like I used to.
Okay.
So it's more cardio focused.
Do you feel like that's healthier for you
It does. Right now, absolutely.
from a function standpoint or from a mental standpoint?
Both.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've actually gotten to where I enjoy the aerobic portion of it, which is before I can stand it. And I think part of it is because I do know that it's doing a lot for my body. I mean, it's not just the way I feel, but the way my doctor feels, about my checkups.
Right.
So I think that also just makes me feel a lot better about what I'm doing right now.
Okay. So, and what I was leading up to that is, how do you find time with running your own practice and trying to balance your own life with fitness? Because, a lot of people's excuse is, well, I don't have the time.
Right.
If I said to you, why do you have the time? Why is that?
I just think you have to make the time. It has to become my priority in your life. And it is. It's one of the top priorities in my life, right there with my wife and the business, and our dogs and cats. You just have to make that conscious decision. That's why I'm up at 4:35 in the morning at the gym, back home, cooking a good breakfast, trying to eat healthy too. That's something that I've always tried to do. But you're right. It does take time, but you have to carve that time out for yourself. And man, I tell you what, like at the end of the week, if I've really hit all of my high points at the gym that I wanted to, it's an amazing feeling.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Not just the business aspect of it, but the accomplishment. Look, I set out to do all of these. I've met all of my goals.
Yeah.
And it just gets me so psyched for the next week. So
What? And I said I wasn't going to hijack this conversation. I'll let you slip in here.
Yeah, I have trouble with these conversations because I like to just sit here. I'm more of an observer or listener than I really am an active, engaging conversation person. So I do get lost in these conversations because I enjoy them so much.
And see, I'm a nerd. I love diving into the psychology of, so my next question was going to be, why is it that you wake up at 4:30? Why wouldn't you want to sleep? Like for you, have you found that training in the morning or waking up early, like some people say, I'll go at night. Like, why does that work for you?
for me, it really does. It gets me ready for the day. And so I have a real hard time sleeping. What I do when I go home and I lay down, I start thinking about every single case that I had that day or the previous day, and could I have done something a little bit different, a little bit better? Got to make that mental note to call Miss Miller about Fluffy, and I wonder how Roman is doing at home. I got to make sure to call Matt and see how they're doing. So all that stuff goes through my head. So to get up, go to the gym, it really gives me about an hour and a half, an hour just to clear my thoughts and get ready for the day.
Okay.
So it's mental preparation too, to be honest with you.
Okay. Now you said going to, like, have you ever done like meditation or like deep breathing work or anything like that? Because you said that about the movies, which makes me kind of wonder.
I haven't. I've got a real good friend. He's a veterinarian in town as well, and he's trying to turn me on to this meditation app. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
What's it called?
I don't know. He keeps talking about it, and I'm obviously not listening very hard. I don't know what it is.
Well, there's one that I use. It's called Headspace. It's a really, really good one. I think there's another one out there called Calm. But yes, by all means, give it a shot. See, I think you're definitely very open enough to absorb it.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, I've tried the Headspace, and I really couldn't get into it. I like the person's voice kind of bothered me, and I kept going off in tangents thinking about this person's voice rather than like thinking about what he was saying.
Yeah.
But I like the getting up and being active in the morning. I like that kind of meditation and motion.
Yeah.
Like, you work yourself hard enough where you really can't really think about anything else or worry about the day. You just got to focus on what you're doing.
And that's exactly how that's my mindset when I go in. It's funny you said that about the voice. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so I'm always walking around the house. My wife and I, it's like dueling podcasts, so she's got hers going, I've got mine, and she's always, I don't see how you listen to that. That person's voice is terrible. I'm like, it's the content, man.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it seems, you really balance everything, it seems. And like every time I come into your office for the dog, by the way, if you guys can hear snoring or anything, the dogs of all podcasts, we said, all right, we will endure the snoring. So I hope that it's not too bad for you guys. But of all the times we
put them to sleep.
All three of them are underneath our feet right now.
Yeah.
But every time I'm there, like you just exude so much like happiness and like, I'm glad you're here. Does that wear on you? Does that wear on you pouring that out? Is it difficult to pour it out at times?
I think sometimes I go home and Caroline, my wife, she looks at me and she's like, "It's a rough day, huh?"
Yeah.
And it does. That level of emotion and dedication, it stays with you. And I do, and I do take it home. And I feel like if you're a veterinarian and you don't feel that way, you probably should be doing something else.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But yeah, it can be difficult at times, especially, if I have a really sick patient or we're discussing some really bad lab results and then I have to go into the next room, which is a new puppy or kitten.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
Gotta be excited, so yeah, it can be making that transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, from a patient standpoint, we so appreciate the follow-up phone calls, the interest, we've come in with some random crises, and you guys, everyone in your clinic has just really walked us through, especially, oh my gosh, when Lily had her ear thing happen and she was like spewing blood all over the house. I think we called in a panic a couple of times. So we so appreciate that outpouring of we can feel it from everyone in your clinic.
We've got a great staff. We really do.
Yeah.
We all have the same love and the same passion for what we do. And I'm glad that it shows because that's truly how we feel.
Yeah, that's what matters. And I think that's why people continue to come back. I think that's why someone who, lives in Milton is willing to drive past, 10 other clinics to get to yours, because it matters, that feeling important and knowing that you care.
Well, and like at any doctor's office or whatever, maybe there's like one person there. It's like, okay, everybody else was real cool except for that one person. Yeah. Like, there's not one person there that isn't just so awesome. Seriously.
I agree. Yeah, I like I said, it's veterinary nurse / technician appreciation week this week.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I try to appreciate them every day, but they're an amazing staff. And honestly, I couldn't do anything that I do without them. And I try to tell them that all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a valuable part of the team for sure.
Well, you guys are fantastic. I will bet that some of them are listening right now. So you guys are awesome. Seriously, thank you so much.
I did tell them maybe 200 or 300 times.
Yeah, and to talk about sort of the service or the surgeries or, basically what you have done for us. Like, I did not have our veterinarian on because he is just another veterinarian. Like, he's here for a real reason, that he has a passion for it, but he's also incredible at what he does. This office is incredible at what they do. And to speak to what he and his crew have actually done for us, Lily, our oldest dog, has had bilateral replacements of, what was it?
Well, ACL.
Okay, it was the ACL.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Roman had the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He had, and that's actually recently healed. Lily had an ear hematoma.
Yep.
And she's also you've disimpacted her
Yes.
3 times.
Yeah, Lily likes to eat toilet paper.
Good Lord. So to say that they go above and beyond, it's an understatement.
Yeah, I think the first time, it was either the first time or the second time with Lily eating the toilet paper or whatever she ate, Matt took some stuff back with an apology note, like, please forgive me.
I felt ridiculous. A, as a parent, and then B, as like, God, it's the third time that he's had to do this.
It happens all the time.
So, with balancing everything, what is one thing that you feel like you struggle with regularly?
As far as business or
Personally, business, anything.
So from a personal standpoint, I just mentioned that I do give a lot of myself emotionally.
Sure.
At my job, it just comes natural. I don't try or not try. It's just how it is.
Right.
A lot of times Caroline will tell me, you're acting a little closed off right now, and I don't feel close to you because you just seem a little bit distant. And it's because I have all that in my head going around and round and round. And so I really have to make a conscious effort when I get home to kind of step back a little bit and appreciate her and ask her about her day and, and try to make her feel like she knows I feel in my heart, but it's a lot of times it's hard to get out of my head. So,
Do you have a ritual that you do to kind of mentally unload before you get home?
I do, actually.
Really?
I do. Well, so we worked this out years ago because she is, I don't know if you've ever heard, there's a book called Love Languages.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so there's 5 love languages, right?
Yep.
Mine is affirmation and hers is touch, for sure. So when I would get home, she would want a big hug, and come here, and how's your day? And it just didn't go well. So on the way home, she makes sure that there's nothing really waiting for me as far as obstacles are concerned. And so I can come in, I feed the dogs, I feed the cat, I feed the fish, I go take my shower, I'm listening to my podcast during that time. And then when I come out, then that's when we kind of sit down and, okay, I feel better now. Yeah. But yes, so I do that every day when I come home, that same thing. And she allows me to. We really took us some time to work through that.
Okay.
But,
It's a lot. It took a lot of self-awareness, though, because
Yeah.
I believe, and I know that some people will just continue that pattern and continue that pattern. So good on you. Good on y'all.
Yeah, and it took some arguments too, But if you're not arguing, you're not trying. So.
There you go.
This is kind of a big one, kind of a deep one, and I feel that it's different for everyone. But what is your definition of happiness?
So I would say, and I'm going to kind of relate this back to what I do for a living.
Okay.
When I think about what I do and how that provides me happiness, is I think of myself as a conduit between the animals and their owners and the love that they both share for each other. Because you bring your dog into me and you say, Doc, my dog is sick. I don't know what to do. I love this dog. And so I'm that channel that then we can express that love through getting that dog better, getting that cat feeling better. So when I walk in after a dog or a cat's been sick and I explain what happened and this is how we're going to fix it, it's like no other feeling in the world. It really is. To know that I am that channel between that love between the animal and the owner, it's great. It's amazing.
Holy crap. That's, wow. That's something I've never experienced that, but that's a great way to put that.
It's special. It is.
That's really, really special.
Yeah. And that really does bring me true happiness, which obviously is why I do what I do. But, going into it, you don't know how you're going to feel.
Yeah.
But it really does. It's a special, special feeling. True happiness, in my opinion, for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what, since we're on this topic of talking about, the clinic, you had sort of mentioned that you had something that you wanted to mention.
Yeah. So I asked you guys, I know both of you work in hospice, and something that we deal with every day in veterinary medicine are very sick animals. And they will get to a point where whatever the disease process is or the injury is, it could be a terminal disease or old age, liver failure, renal failure, whatever the case may be. There may be a point in time where the quality of life is to the point where that animal is suffering.
Yeah.
In my world, I have the ability to humanely end that suffering.
Right.
And I told you guys a little story before we came on about my father who passed away of esophageal cancer. And basically the medical community said, we've done all we can do for you. Now go home and die. And it took almost a year for that to happen. As I said, He couldn't talk anymore. Stomach tube in, so he couldn't eat. And if my father was one of those guys that everybody he met was his best friend. So he loved to talk.
Yeah.
He loved to cook, and so the things that brought him good happiness, good quality of life, he couldn't do anymore.
Yeah, that's tough.
There's nothing that we could do for him except for just watch and cry. Really.
Yeah.
It was rough.
That sucks.
So in that sense, I feel like that from an ethical standpoint, we have more options for our animals than the medical community on the human side provides us, which is sad.
Well, and so I remember I came in with one of the dogs one day, and again, because I'm ignorant to veterinary medicine, I did not realize the extent of medicine that there is. Like, to the listener, in the medical field, there is so much that can be done. You can be put on dialysis for your kidneys.
Human medical field.
Sorry, that. Well, long story short, like, we can do open heart surgery. We can do pretty much anything but replace your brain, I knew that, but we were talking one day and we're like, oh yeah, like we do dialysis on dogs up in Auburn. And it blew my mind away to know that. So when we talked a little bit about that beforehand, like that's what hospice is. And if you do not know what hospice is, it's when someone has typically 6 months or less to live and their quality of life is not there. So the beauty of what hospice is you get to provide quality for whatever time you have left.
It puts the patient and the family back in the driver's seat.
Exactly.
And I think that's the biggest difference in your world versus ours is I think you can, or at least what's lacking in the human medical field is that there's not that whole gamut of conversation, like beginning to end. It's just, what's the next step? This is what you should do. This is what we're telling you to do.
You're saying that's what human medicine is.
Yeah. Because it's so accessible that it's not a conversation of if you choose option A, these are actually all the other options that you're choosing.
Right.
If you choose this surgery, we're going to remove your vocal cords and you'll have a peg tube, and the things that you love the most are talking and cooking.
Right.
I didn't know you then, but I doubt that was the full conversation that was had with your dad, probably.
No, it was, this is what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
With no understanding of these could be the repercussions down the road.
Yeah.
Right. And go ahead.
And I think, that's the hardest part of what we do is that we meet these people in their crisis of a lot of them regret the decisions that they made without having the full knowledge of what they were choosing.
Exactly.
It was just, this is what we recommend, so this is what we're going to do. And I think in the animal world, it's a little less, at least in our area, maybe a little less available where, if I wanted to put Roman on dialysis, it's not just immediately available.
Right.
So, the limitations of the options are maybe a little bit more discussed than they are in the human world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in defense of the human medical world, like it's not how most general nurses or most doctors are trained. It's just not how they're trained. We know unbelievably intelligent doctors in their field, but they don't know how to have that end of life conversation because it's just not how they were trained.
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. But it's
so necessary.
And so in most states, euthanasia or basically dying on your own accord, it can be done in Oregon. Colorado, at least Oregon. I know that. And I believe isn't it that they push potassium with?
I think it's, I don't know. I can't speak to it.
I guess I can't speak to that. But and we were talking about it before that, and you said this in a different fashion, that we treat our animals so much better than we do our humans. So how often do you have that conversation?
Oh my gosh. Way more often than I like.
Really?
But I mean, I've 5 or 6, I've had to do that 5 or 6 times a day before.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh my Lord.
Yeah. And so some of these are maybe long-term patients that have had issues. And so it's been kind of building to that. So you've kind of walked them down that road.
Okay.
but other ones are, these are acute problems that just popped up, hit my car. Some of those where you walk in and you've got mom crying and dad crying and the kids are, and it's to have that conversation, it's difficult. In fact, 2 Fridays ago, a good friend of mine, she works at another hospital. Her horse had cancer, and she said it's time. And so we went all the way out to Baghdad out there and
Really?
And put her horse down. Yeah, it was tough.
Wow.
And she had her whole family there.
Wow.
Mom, dad, aunts, uncles, husband. Yeah, and it's tough. Yeah.
And I did not know that you went elsewhere to do that.
I do. So at one point in my career, I did do large animal medicine as well as small animal. So I do have a background in that. And for special circumstances, yeah, we'll go to my patient to do that.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. It's hard to
Kinda
bring
tough, yeah.
the horse in.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to check in the office when you got a horse behind you.
I know. We're going to put you in room 1.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just thinking about, I don't think I ever even thought about how often you have to have that conversation and how much that's gotta suck.
Yeah, it does. It does. And, I do think about, and I tell my clients this, I had this one conversation when my grandfather was passing away. He had congestive heart failure, renal failure, and he was a diabetic for 40 years. And he was in the hospital, and he said, I'm done. I had a great life. I'm done. And he said, I know it's hard for you, but you can offer that option to your patients. And I know it's hard, but that is an option that I would choose right now.
Wow.
And ultimately he did, because what he said is, I'm not going to dialysis anymore. You can't make me.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I relate it back from the human world to the veterinary medicine world.
Okay. Huh. I love it.
Yep. I don't look forward to that conversation when we have it.
No.
Well, they're only 2 years old, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny because Caroline, my wife, her dog that she brought to our relationship when we got together, she said, well, Annie is 8 years old. And then the next year, Annie was 8 years old. And I said, babe, Annie's been 8 for 4 years now.
Don't you change Annie's age.
Yeah, our dogs are pretty gray, but they're only 1 and 2.
They're not gray. They've been out in the sun.
Gray.
They've been out in the sun lately. They're not gray.
That's Matt's answer every time. I'm like, they're going gray. He's like, they're just sun bleached.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Well, you got anything else?
If you could go back and change anything, is there anything you would change in your career, in your fitness journey? Anything you would tell yourself, your younger self?
I guess in my fitness journey, I would probably go back and tell myself to slow down a little bit. Because I loved it so much, I really got very aggressive and pretty hardcore about it, probably to a fault, which is why I had so many injuries. Didn't let myself heal properly when I was younger. And I don't think I had the education either that I do now as far as fitness is concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody does, right? I mean,
Right.
It's amazing world from 10 years ago in the fitness industry.
It's true.
So yeah, that's what I would probably do. Just say, hey man, slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a lesson to all of you out there, and I can speak to that.
Matt,
Yeah,
slow down a little
I can
bit.
speak to that. So, hey, were you doing like were you doing powerlifting? Was it bodybuilding?
Mostly like bodybuilding type stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Man after my own heart. Well, awesome. And tell them, because all this is going to be in the description below or in the YouTube. But did you say where the actual shop is? Did we say what the name of the shop is?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so yeah, currently we're off of Langley Avenue, right there by the butcher shop.
That's right. This is all coming back to me. Sorry.
But we do have a brand new hospital in the works.
Hey.
So awesome.
Yeah, off of Creighton Road. So it's about a half a mile from where we're at right now. And when we get closer to that, we'll have a big grand opening and all that. But I was just there today. I was telling you guys, and they got the roof up and the foundation is poured. So I'm really psyched about that.
I bet you
awesome.
are.
Really happy, man. It's a lifetime dream, actually. Can't believe it's coming true.
Great.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. And actually, I'm gonna mark this for the editing later. Like, we got to take a photo or put something on the podcast whenever that happens.
Cool.
That would be awesome to be able, because you're hearing this now. Like, go look for the post whenever this.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So I like to end
Yeah.
our podcast by just kind of wrapping up. And I know we covered a whole gamut of things, but I think one thing that I'm going to take away from this conversation is just that you make the time. You don't just have the time, you make the time. And it doesn't work the other way.
No,
like,
it doesn't.
And starting your day, if you were to end your day, and I know I've learned this myself, if you wait till the end of the day, you've got all your excuses that you've gathered all day to not, do whatever fitness routine that you're doing. So I agree with you on that. You got to make the time, and starting your day with it, I think, is really good meditation and motion.
I think the biggest thing that I gained from this conversation with you, numerous things, but the biggest thing was in the very beginning, you said you weren't the smartest, but you put your head down and you worked. Yeah. Like you could not be outworked. And that gives me goosebumps, because that's awesome. And that's why you are where you are. And that's why you are continuing to have success. So good for you.
Well, and I did have a lot of good role models. My family, my mom's always been a hard worker and tried to instill that value in me. But yeah, I truly believe in that. And if you work hard and you do things right, there's nothing that you can't accomplish.
I agree.
I don't want to tarnish that ending. That was fantastic. Guys, check this veterinarian clinic out. It's awesome. I swear by it. He's gotten us out of a lot of mental trauma by our own doing. He's a fantastic vet, fantastic clinic. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I
really appreciate you.
Have a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
This has been the Better Than Yesterday Everyday Podcast. We want to thank you for listening and invite you to subscribe to the show as well. And follow Matt Lane Fitness on YouTube. Until next time, you don't have to be perfect. Just be better than yesterday every day.